your eyes, feel free to do so. It's sort of a chant based on, "O Lord, hear my prayer."
Oh, thank you. Wonderful. What a nice, peaceful start. Thank you, thank you. And we've welcomed each person as they've come into the Zoom meeting, so I think that's going to count as our introductions and welcome today. So I'd like to start with Channing reading the covenant.
Good morning. The governing board and the elected council build and provide a sacred environment that will nurture the growth towards a world of interfaith peace. In solidarity with one another, we affirm. Our dialogue is interfaith dialogue. We're all having different communication styles and varying views, and we commit to be in dialogue with respect for all, expanding listening to hear multiple points of view. We realize that we are responsible for the growth of I4C, and each of us shares a duty to interfaith growth. The governing board provides leadership, and the elected council works towards progress and the fulfillment of I4C goals as we grow. We recognize that we are imbued with interfaith responsibility. As such, we commit to hold ourselves and each other accountable to merit that trust. Respect for the diverse traditions, beliefs, and spiritual paths of all those we encounter. Hold ourselves to the highest ethical standards and accountable to our communities and to I4C. Our shared time together is interfaith time. We commit to honoring the start and end times each time we meet. It is our hope that this living document, which as we grow in knowledge and awareness, will be reviewed and updated regularly, that it may bring our commitments to each other and all we serve in every interaction with sacred regard for one another and for all life.
Thank you so much. Let's see, I want to move us into, I sent the minutes out from the last meeting to everyone and wondered if anybody had any significant corrections or changes. Unmute yourself if you wish to speak, please. Okay, then I assume that they are approved. All right, thank you. Julius, I want to ask Julius to give us his report because he's taking an online course right now. And so he's interrupting his course so he can give his report, and then he'll go back to his course. So I wanted to start with Julius. Julius, please. Julius? Will, can you unmute Julius?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, sorry, I was having some connectivity issues. Hi, I hope everyone's doing well today. Today is a wonderful day. I'm blessed to have circled around the sun another year on today, and so I'm grateful for life, health, and strength. I'm grateful for our chaplaincy program and ministry. Things have actually been going all right. I've been able to reach out to several different people, and my campaign will continue to receive. Well, first, I'm getting creative ideas to continue spiritual care. So what we've been doing is I've had people send in letters, handwritten notes and cards, just encouragement, just little notes of encouragement, because people aren't able to see their families, nor are any of the spiritual care volunteers able to come in still. So, the little letters and notes and cards and books have really helped just to let them know that someone on the outside cares for them as well. I've actually even had some people write notes and for the staff members that are also part of essential working. I had actually one person put Starbucks cards in there for some of the staff members, so that was really nice. So we've been continuing with that. We're working with the administration to get Zoom technology up and running. As with anything with government entities, especially the county, it takes time, a lot of time for them to get these things going. So we're just patiently waiting on Zoom. But in the meantime, I've secured DVDs. I'm grateful for the St. Joseph's Church, St. Joseph's Catholic Church, for First Presbyterian of Concord, Deliverance Tabernacle of Richmond. It's several other people that have reached out and have actually sent things, and we're grateful for that.
What kind of things have they sent, Julius?
Just cards, like little greeting cards or letters. Some have sent tracts. I've reached out to just different people, the People's Missions Ministry. Actually, I had some from the Nation of Islam. They just sent me some information that I can give out to some Muslim practicing youth. It's also Ramadan season, and so last year we did a great job of making sure that the young people had portable prayer mats. So I still have those. And the ones that I gave out last year, one of those young men is still there. So he still has all of his stuff, and he has his Quran in Arabic. So we're making sure that all of their needs are met, dietary restrictions, everything. So I'm proud to report that things are going well. I'm just grateful for the continued support and volunteers that have sent those things. And I want to also publicly thank Channing for writing such a beautiful article. It really touched my heart, and I'm just going to also be reaching out more and available to answer any questions if someone else is interested, or people that have nothing but time on their hands that wouldn't mind writing notes or cards for these kids.
Julius, you're referring to our spring newsletter just got printed, and it's in the mail to you all. Yes. And Channing did some nice articles on both Felicity and on Julius, and some caring efforts that they have made. And Julius has information about how you can send in cards and letters to a juvenile, and the address of where to send them. So you'll get more information shortly in the mail about all this.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Julius.
Thank you.
And we understand that you have to go back to a course.
Yes, clinical pastoral education, more equipping for chaplaincy. It never stops. But thank you.
Can we ask a couple of questions?
Sure, yes.
Those? I just don't want to hold you up, but if you could just throw out the 3 or 5 things that come to mind of ways that we can support you.
Yes. We so I have gotten some recordings because the Sundays or Saturdays where they have time for religious programming, those people can't come in. So I have had people donate DVDs that can be played, broadcast in the units. So that's always good. I'm just continuing to, sorry about that, continuing to send the letters or little cards, and then it's not even in depth. I had one church, they just had small cards, and they wrote just one sentence: "You're amazing." You just it's that some people wrote things that are very detailed, but that really helps because we just want to keep a spiritual presence and emotional support for them. Keep us in your thoughts and your prayers. I have several young men that have also expressed interest recently in tattoo removal. So we want to continue to secure funds for that. I've had some other people express interest in some of the things that Reverend Tinsley used to do. And we've been kind of at a little standstill as a result of what's been going on. But after all of this, I'm going to need support as it relates to forming our committee and helping with our new aftercare rollout when we're able to do that.
Okay. Do you need anything, or what is the computer situation like there? Are they allowed, do you have computers where they can get educational help, or is someone coming in to give them?
Yes, they still have school, and most of their school is based on computers. Computer based. So they still have that. But it's restricted to school. So they only have the computer access when they're in their classroom.
So how do they? Well, they know how to use Zoom and everything, obviously, if they're doing it through the computer, but they don't have Zoom in the other part of the area. Is that it?
But it's not. They don't have computer use for recreation. So if once they get the Zoom technology, I'm sure they will be able to secure private areas for like Zoom meetings for as needed for visiting. Maybe I think that's something they may be interested in. But they don't have any computers for recreational use, only for the school department.
All right, that makes sense. But I think you had said before, is the technology adequate? I mean, do they have adequate computers? Do they need donations for that?
I need to figure out how that will work, because they may, even with the computer, even with donations, they which will be good. I just need to figure out the process of what they need to do to make them quote county computers.
Yeah.
There's so many regulations, so I will definitely figure that out. But I know that there is a need. You just have to go with it. Always have to double check all the regulations.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Julius. We won't keep you any longer.
All right. Thank you all so much. If you have
Feel
any
free
questions,
to
please
email them or send them.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Sending love.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Throw your email in that chat before you go, if you don't mind, so everyone will have it. Thanks.
Thank you all so very much.
And you'll get more on the mailing address in the article. Thank you. So next up we have Reverend Robert Collins, who's an ordained Science of Mind minister from the Centers for Spiritual Living. And Robert, I honestly don't know much about this, and so I was really excited that you agreed to talk to us today and give us your faith reflection and tell us more about what you do.
Great, thank you, and good morning to everyone. Can you hear me okay? Okay. Science of Mind is a philosophy that I discovered in the early to mid 1990s. And let me just make a little adjustment on my screen. Oh, wait, okay. And it really spoke to me on a very personal level. The tagline that we used is for a definition of science of mind, it's a philosophy of faith and a way of life. And the terms religious science and science of mind are used interchangeably. A little history about the organization. It was founded in 1927 by Ernest Holmes as the Institute of Religious Science and School of Philosophy in Los Angeles. And the basis for this was Ernest Holmes had a desire to study and look at the best applications of spiritual traditions, religious traditions that were known at that time. And through his work, he began giving lectures and on spiritual principles, the spiritual path as a way of life. And people became very attracted to these spiritual principles, began incorporating them into their lives, and began to witness changes in their own lives and changes for the good. And especially the story goes is that a lot of salesmen were attracted to the philosophy and used these spiritual principles to enhance the abundance as a result of their sales career in their lives. There were people of other religious faiths that also attended the Institute. And the idea that Ernest Holmes had was not to start a church, but to empower individuals to take these teachings back into their own communities and use them to expand on the foundation of their particular denomination or faith practice. Well, what happened is that a number of communities just did not accept the spiritual principles or the teachings as they were presented. And so these individuals who became students of Ernest Holmes began talking to him about beginning a church, which he had resisted for a long time. However, in 1953, the Institute became known as the Church of Religious Science. And then shortly after that, the human element, as it does enter into things, caused a little internal rift within the movement. And religious science actually split into two groups, one becoming Religious Science International, or RSI, and the other United Church of Religious Science, or UCRS. I grew up on the United side of the organization. And so my background is, now I should mention that both of the organizations continue to use the Science of Mind textbook, which is the basic guiding textbook for our faith tradition. We use the same textbook. United side of the house developed classes more from a, what's a word or phrase I'm looking for? More curriculum-based classes that were developed by educators. Whereas on the RSI side of the house, they developed their classes internally. So the classes didn't always match or were compatible with each other. So anyway, several years ago, the head of the spiritual leader of RSI and the spiritual leader of United became prayer partners. And through their prayer work, a vision emerged out of them to have the two communities come back together. And they figured that if they, at their level of leadership, could overcome whatever the perceived differences were, that why not try this for the entire organization? And so a series of meetings and planning sessions and strategic gatherings took place over a period of a couple of years. And I'm happy to announce that in 2011, the two organizations came back together, not from a merger standpoint, because a merger indicated that one would be absorbing the other. The term was used, the term integration was used for the coming together of the two groups, because as a process of the meetings leading up to the actual reunification, each group looked at its own best practices and overlaid those and adapted and came up with new practices and new guidelines that set the stage for a new organization, which emerged now as Centers for Spiritual Living. So this is how we got to the name that we are now. However, the teaching is religious science. And the religious science movement is currently recognized as one of the leading viewpoints in modern metaphysics. Science of mind began as a teaching philosophy more than a religion, and teaching remains its mission through classes, workshops, seminars, etc. These are designed to focus on a path for spiritual living as a way of life. And for some individuals, as they begin to take classes, an inner calling is revealed to them to direct their studies towards becoming licensed practitioners, licensed spiritual practitioners. And a licensed spiritual practitioner is another fancy term for a prayer support, prayer spiritual counselor. We don't use the term counseling because we're not trained as therapists. So we use the term spiritual guides, if you will. And then there are practitioners like myself. I began as a practitioner. There are those of us who even go deeper in our spiritual journey and recognize that there's a calling to go into ministry. And so to become a licensed practitioner requires currently a minimum of 5 years of study. And then to become a minister requires a minimum of 3 years of additional study for the Master's in Consciousness Studies, which is an accredited master's program. And then the path to ordination after becoming licensed as a minister, the path to ordination is a 3-year internship. I completed my studies prior to the integration, and so my path to ordination was only 2 years, and I was very excited about that. Science of Mind teaches the idea of oneness. This is our primary teaching, the idea that everything in the universe is connected. We are bound together at a fundamental level, and we know this connection. Another way we have of saying that is that there is not a spot where God is not. Science of Mind is a study of the life and the nature of the laws of thought. The understanding that we live in a spiritual universe, that God is in, through, and all around us. And we use different terms to embody and express this idea of God, recognizing that many people have been wounded in their traditional faith practices by God, and the way the philosophy, or the way the dogma of that particular tradition worked them. And so they've left somewhat disenchanted and wounded and hurt. And so we recognize that God can be a loaded word for some individuals. So you will hear in our conversations the use of the terms like universe, creative intelligence, creative mind, one life, one love, one power, one harmony, all things that reflect this whole idea of oneness. Science of Mind embodies religious scientific thought, along with a mixture of religious and scientific philosophies. We recognize that as creative beings, we recognize that the things that we do shape our worldview. Our actions arise from our underlying beliefs, and we use our creative power to examine, to understand, and to change our underlying beliefs if we so choose. And in doing so, we change the framework from which we live. We're always a choice. We're responsible for our own lives, thus the expression, change your thinking, change your life. We teach that each individual controls the course of their life, their success or failure, their health or sickness, their happiness, their boredom or misery, by focusing on the spiritual path and using a mental process which functions according to a universal law. And this is just a really broad-based overview. I want to share with you a little bit about our founder, Ernest Holmes, and then move into our statement of principles, which really sums up what our belief system is. Ernest Holmes was known to his family as the question mark. He was a passionate seeker of knowledge and embarked on his own path of independent thinking at the age of 18. He was deeply moved and influenced by 3 creative thinkers, Ralph Waldo Emerson, Thomas Troward, and Phineas Parkhurst Quimby. That's a mouthful of a name to say. Emerson was a distinguished New England philosopher and essayist, along with being a Unitarian minister, and is sometimes known as the father of New Thought. Ernest Holmes was drawn to Emerson's transcendental philosophy and teachings. Thomas Trard was an eminent British jurist and a metaphysician whose chief interest lay in the field of religion. Holmes was drawn to Troward's theory of mental healing, which he called mental science. Quimby was an American healer whose ideas greatly influenced the New Thought movement and the religious metaphysical practitioners of his day. Holmes was influenced by Quimby's belief that illness originated in the mind and was created by erroneous beliefs. And when a person opened their mind to God's wisdom and God's love, they could conquer any sickness. Ernest Holmes was also trained by, was touched by the work of Emma Curtis Hopkins. Emma was a greatly respected American teacher and mystic, and is often known within metaphysical circles as the teacher of teachers because of the number of individuals that had studied under her and were influenced by her teachings. Ernest studied with Emma Curtis Hopkins in her later years when she was teaching only individuals. And so he was in that group with Charles and Merle Fillmore, who are the founders of the Unity movement, with Emily Cady, the Riggs Sisters, Divine Science, Home of Truth, some of the other New Thought teachings. Holmes wrote the Science of Mind textbook in 1926. It was revised in 1938. And it continues to be the primary textbook that is used for our teachings. Ernest Holmes founded the Science of Mind magazine in 1927, which remains in publication today. And I'll hold up the most current copy with our new community spiritual leader, Dr. Edward Villon, who is local in our spiritual community in Santa Rosa. Ernest made his transition in 1960. And now a few questions and answers about the Science of Mind. One of the overarching questions that we often receive is, what is our belief about Jesus? We believe in the example of Jesus as a master teacher. We do our best to follow the teachings of Jesus. And we do not deny Jesus' divinity, and we affirm the divinity of all people. We think of Jesus as the example and not the exception. Another question often asked is, what do we believe about the Bible? We believe that the Bible is among many of sacred scriptures, which are all inspired by the one mind, which is God, and presented through various spiritual teachers. We believe that the Judeo-Christian scriptures offer an appropriate path to spiritual freedom. And when I was going through ministerial school, one of the principles or ideas that they taught us in our homiletics class, which is the art and craft of writing and delivering sermons, is that there are three things that a minister always includes in a sermon. And that is something from the Science of Mind textbook, some pearl of wisdom by Ernest Holmes, something from the Bible that is relevant to the talk that we are preparing, and also include a personal experience, because it is through personal experiences how we apply these principles in our own lives that serve as an influence for others. And they can see that, especially those who may know us on a personal level, if Robert applies this in his life and it's working and it has brought about a change from what I've observed of my awareness of him over the years, then I just might try this on. I just might like it. Another question that is asked is, what does Science of Mind believe about God? We believe that God is a transcendental and beautiful mystery, the origin of all, the sustainer of all life, of all truth, and of all that there is. We also understand that no one person can truly explain what God is. So we say God is infinite. Another question that is asked of us is, do we believe in eternal damnation? And the response is no, we do not. As free individuals, we may bring great difficulties upon ourselves, but that is as near as we come to so-called damnation. The choice is always ours. Again, back to one of our underlying principles: change your thinking, change your life. Another question: does science of mind believe in the 10 Commandments? And our answer is yes. For we do not deny the validity of this wise and useful code of conduct. It is an intelligent and loving pattern for one to model one's life around. The science of mind believe in the hereafter. We believe in the eternal now. We do not, however, believe in a sudden change in our whole nature when we leave this particular plane of physical expression. We believe and teach that we retain our individual identity. There's a passage out of the textbook that I love to quote, and I use it quite often at memorials and funerals. And it says that nature will only let us stay in one place too long. We only stay there long enough to gain the knowledge and the wisdom that is preparing us for the next journey on this eternal life. Or if nature would let us stay in any one place too long, we would become rigid and too set in our ways. And so we know that this plane of existence is just one step in the field of eternal immortality. We are immortal now. Our future is now, and we believe in the present now. And I will mention one thing about our prayer technology. We use a form of prayer that is called affirmative prayer, where we speak as if whatever it is that we are requesting and whatever it is that we are knowing for our highest and best is present right here and right now. And through our spiritual practice, through our prayer work, through our meditations, through our affirmations, we are able to demonstrate or to call into or to manifest into our lives the reality of what is. And we always say what is for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all concerned, believing that this is an abundant life for everyone to participate in. And I'll share with you our declaration of principles, or our statement of belief. And these were written by Ernest Holmes as part of his foundation for this philosophy called Science of Mind. We believe in God, the living Spirit Almighty, one indestructible, absolute, and self-existent cause. This one manifests itself in and through all creation, but is not absorbed by its creation. The manifest universe is the body of God. It is the logical and necessary outcome of the infinite self-knowingness of God. We believe in the individualization of spirit in all, and that all people are individualizations of the one spirit. We believe in the eternality, the immortality, and the continuity of the individual soul, forever and ever expanding. We believe that heaven is within us and that we experience it to the degree that we become conscious of it. We believe the ultimate goal of life to be a complete freedom from all discord of every nature, and that this goal is sure to be attained by all. We believe in the unity of all life, and that the highest God and the innermost God is one God. We believe that God is personal to all who feel this indwelling presence. We believe in the direct revelation of truth through our intuitive and spiritual nature, and that anyone may become a revealer of truth who lives in close contact with the indwelling God. We believe that the universal spirit, which is God, operates through a universal mind, which is the law of God, and that we are surrounded by this creative mind which receives the direct impress of our thought and acts upon it. We believe in the healing of the sick and the control of conditions through the power of the mind. We believe in the eternal goodness, the eternal loving kindness, and the eternal givingness of life to all. We believe in our own soul, our own spirit, and our own destiny. But we understand that the life we live is God, and so it is. And I will, if we have time, I am willing to entertain any questions that you may have, any comments.
Let's see if we have any questions. That was very interesting, Robert. I really learned a lot, and I appreciate that. That was
Thank
really, helped me put my arms around this. So let me open the floor to questions.
Wasn't Louise Hay from the Science of Mind, Religion of Science of Mind?
I'm sorry, can you speak a little bit louder? I didn't hear you.
Louise Hay?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Louise Hay no, Louise Hay Louise Hay was a unity minister. However, her teachings are embraced and used by Science of Mind.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, she was trained in the unity tradition.
Yeah.
Is there a connection between unity and Science of Mind?
Yes, we are both considered metaphysical new thought teachings. And there is overlap. In fact, within our current organizational movement, there's a partnership between unity and Science of Mind, where a unity minister can go through a process to become an affiliated Science of Mind ministry. And Science of Mind ministers who would like to apply and minister in a unity community can go through a process of unity to become an affiliated unity ministry. So that's a partnership that is that's fairly new, and we're really excited about it. In fact, a couple of real close minister friends of mine who were in California accepted a unity pulpit in Colorado. And they're really loving the move, and the community is really embracing them. And so it's a great partnership that is formed.
I have a question, Robert.
Yes.
My husband was involved in Science of Mind many years ago, and we have all of his books they collected by Thomas Troward. And one of my favorite books of his was this Creative Process of the Individual. It's really wonderful, and one we'd love to read together. And I have an interesting observation. Our former pastor, Brian Joyce, at Christ the King, quoted Troward's, something from Troward in one of his homilies, and I was really taken aback. Surprised to hear him speaking of Troward in a Catholic homily. But I am familiar with the Science of Mind, and really one of my favorite books is The Creative Process by Troward.
Yeah. Troward was one of my favorite teachers. There was a class when I was coming through that was it was the history of it was the history class. That's what it was, and it focused on the teachings of Emerson, Troward, and Emma Curtis Hopkins. And I love Troward. Some of my fellow classmates couldn't stand Troward because his paragraphs, he writes a one-sentence paragraph that can go on for pages. He was trained as a lawyer, so that's part of his background. Yeah, I know Father Brian Joyce from my days of practicing Catholicism. I don't know if he remembers me or not, but please express a hello for me.
Well, Robert, I'm sorry to cut this off, but I know we have to move on. But you intrigued me enough. I'm going to look up some of those books. Channing?
I just want to say, yes, thank you so much, Robert. I was wondering if you could share with us as an ending where we might experience the worship services of CSL. I know there's one in the Oakland, and could you just say something about that?
Yeah, there are actually 3 centers in Oakland. The Oakland Center for Spiritual Living, which was formerly known as First Church of Religious Science, and they're located in the near the Montclair Golf Course on Clairwood Drive. The other center is East Bay Church of Religious Science, which was my home church for a number of years. And they're located at 4130 Telegraph Avenue in the Temescal district. And the other center is Heart and Soul Center of the Light, and they're located on the Emeryville borderline on Linden. I don't know their exact address, but you can look them up on the internet. Also, if you go to our website, csl.org, you can find a listing of the centers throughout the world. We are a worldwide organization. Yeah.
Thank you, Robert.
I can put that information in the chat for you.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has been,
You're
like
welcome.
I say, a real education. I appreciate it. Thank you. I'm going to move us on to the reports, and I'm going to start with Judy Stillman on Winter Nights. Judy, tell us what's going on with Winter Nights.
Okay, my question is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Well, Winter Nights, we closed our shelter on May 4th, and we had everybody housed except 2 families. And so those 2 families we're putting in motels for the next 4 to 6 weeks, or depending on when they will get housing or an alternative place to live. Our staff is staying in touch with them to help them move on into housing. And we also have continued the parking lot program to the end of May at least. And we're able to do this because we got 2 wonderful grants, one from United Way and one from Sunlight Giving. And so we can house people and continue to feed that group that's in motels, and to open up the shelter, the parking lot program shelter, especially during the day, because these folks don't have any place to go because parks are closed and fast food places are closed, and they need restrooms. And then we open up the Oasis at St. Vincent de Paul's for showers. So our Winter Night staff, our shelter staff, is continuing to work with the parking lot staff. And we are continuing to work on becoming our own 501c3, and we will have more information for you in a month. And we are also making alternative plans for all the different things that could happen in the fall. Hopefully we could open in September, but what that opening looks like, we don't know. It may be fewer clients. It may be getting some trailers to park at different congregations. It may be a whole lot of different things. So we're exploring what we can do to open up in the fall to help families. The one thing that we just did was Hope Solutions, which was Interfaith Housing, Contra Costa Interfaith Housing previously, has helped us a great deal. And they have asked for help with furnishings and household goods. So we sent that out to our group, and there may be some folks that can help with that. And for the discussion that we have today, that's a possibility of someplace we could help. So that's it as far as Winter Nights is concerned. We're doing what we can do. And our families did shelter in place for 6 weeks. And because we couldn't have volunteers, we had restaurant dinners brought in, which were what the folks loved. It was wonderful, but it was a bit of a difficulty getting things in on time, and but it worked out. We were fine. That's it.
Boy, Judy, you've had to be so flexible. It's amazing.
Can I ask a question?
Please.
This is Margaret, Judith. I was wondering if the families with children are able to continue with school given that it's all online, and whether there's any need for support around getting the children connected technologically.
Yeah, during our shelter in place, we had a schedule, and an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon were quiet times, and all of the kids had Chromebooks or iPads or something to connect in the the two churches that we had Wi-Fi connections, so they were able, and their teachers furnished them with assignments. And so if the kids didn't have something to use, the school districts furnished Chromebooks, and so all of the kids were able to work on their assignments. We started out with 22 people, which was about almost 2 months ago. It was in February, and then we ended up just with 2 families. So all of those families one of them chose to leave, but all the rest of them found housing, and so they were able to take their Wi-Fi with them, or not their Wi-Fi, their iPads or their Chromebooks, and they were able to work on things. We didn't have tutors. We didn't have tutors that could sit beside them, but their parents were doing that, and some of the staff as well. And our staff were just fabulous.
Amazing. That's wonderful. And the last families, they still have Wi-Fi available?
Well, yeah, they're both the families are in motels, and so the motels have Wi-Fi.
Okay.
And one has an 18-year-old. He just turned 18, and he has graduated from high school. So he's going to be going out on his own. But his brother is still doing classwork, and the other 2 girls who are in a different motel, they're also doing work.
Okay, thanks.
Could I ask a question of Judy? This is Nancy. The Hope Solutions sheets that you sent were very helpful, but the one sheet, it says at first that you can have new or gently used, and then later on it says just new. So that would be a clarification. And the other would be that at the top it does say it's a request for May, but then in the next paragraph it says it's about the month of March. So it would just cause a little confusion. So you might put that out to Hope Solutions. And
yeah, I have done that. Somebody else pointed that out too. No, it's for anything current right now, because he just sent it to me this past week. So I'm sure that those are still and I was really curious about the not using having brand new things, but so I think you could probably make a judgment about what you have to donate.
And I know this
I
came
know
up
that
with
winter
the
nights.
Yeah, it came up with the refugees and working with IRC that everything so much had to be new, and
well,
so
I can tell you that if you have used towels and that sort of thing, winter nights will take those. So,
okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Judy, and I really appreciate your flexibility. Gosh,
Well, I mean, we have a wonderful program director, Bill Shaw, and he has made things happen, and we're all just delighted with what the staff has been able to do, because they have to take temperatures, and they have to wear gloves to serve food, and and masks, and we furnished everybody with masks, and we had no incidences of any kind of illness, including the woman who has cancer, and she's doing fine and improving, and we're very pleased with that.
Thank you. Ken Sargent, can I ask you to give us a brief financial report?
I'm glad to do so. Can people hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The month of April was in many ways a continuation of the trends that we had seen earlier. As you can tell from Judy's report, it was a very active month for both sides of the organization. In terms of the trend lines, both I4C and Winter Nights were under budget on revenue, over budget on expenses, therefore undershot their bottom lines. But both parts of the organization stayed very active in terms of new changes under the coronavirus. Bank balances were strong. Winter Nights, $145, $337, and I4C, $54,106. I am pleased to report that I4C was a successful recipient of a PPP grant, and that will help us with about 2 months worth of our expenses. So we're in the middle of applying that now. And donations have remained very strong for both parts of the organization. I4C is $42,032 over where it was at this time last year, and Winter Nights is $81,311 over. If there's questions, I'd be glad to take them.
Thank you, Ken.
Mm-hmm.
That's wonderful. I so appreciate that we can keep paying our people and keep going and maintain our programs. So that the help from the PPP program is really appreciated and makes us feel like, you know, we just got to keep going. Let's see, I wanted Channing to give us a brief report on the outreach. Channing, unmute.
Unmute. There we go. So just quickly, I wanted to say there's been a lot of activity going on in the communications and outreach area. Thanks to the communications team, which is Christine, Celia, Marin, Zula, Felicity, Diane, and Margaret. We have a myriad of ideas suggested to implement over the year, but now we've started with these two initiatives. One is the I4C website. And Carolyn and Will and I partnered with a graphic designer, Brandy Saldana, and we've now completed the first phase of website changes. What you'll see when you go there is a new look and feel for our brand, and you'll see that there are 3 words in the top logo: caring, diversity, and compassion. And I'll follow up with that in a second. We have a new, more dynamic front page with a scrolling slider. Our news and our events are much more prominent, and it's very clear what we're doing in the COVID area, and lots more. So please take a look and drop a note to me as to what you like about the website or any other suggestions for improvements. The second thing that we've done is we've started a new column called Opening Hearts for Caring, Diversity, and Compassion. And this column is going to be in the newsletter, the 3 attributes of our brand, the caring, diversity, and compassion, are going to be the cornerstones of these stories. We started out with 2 stories. One is about Felicity Grove, Dr. Grove, who has made masks for local areas, and also she'll be sending them away. Also, there's a story about Julius Van Hook, which he mentioned, about his work at the detention center. The Open Hearts column will appear both in the newsletter and on the website. And I already have a story for the next quarterly issue of Opening Hearts from Nancy Battey about her congregation, the Christian Science congregation, with their work with the refugees. So lots is going on, and I invite you to go out to the website. We just didn't have time to walk through the whole thing today, and we really welcome anything that you might have in the way of stories for the next issue of Opening Hearts.
Thank you, Jenny. Really appreciate that. I wanted to mention also that in the Ministering Together newsletter that you'll get out shortly, I wrote an article about COVID and nuclear weapons and interfaith and how do they all connect. So please read it. I am working with the United Religions Initiative Voices Cooperative Circle with Bishop Swing in San Francisco on recognizing Hiroshima's 75th anniversary this August 6th. And some of our thoughts on this are in a renewed effort to abolish nuclear weapons. So please read the article and know that you're going to hear more about all this as that anniversary comes up. Let's see, I wanted to head us into our interfaith dialogue, and I've invited Terry Moss to lead us on that because we wanted to talk about how we can collectively help our community better as I4C right now. And Terry, I'm going to turn this over to you. Will, can you turn over this to Terry Moss, and let's let Terry lead this. And we're going to try to break into small groups and discuss this and report out. And we need to do it pretty promptly to pull it off. So we'll let you mastermind this and let Terry talk.
Thank you, Carolyn. I just wanted to give a quick lead in. What I'd like to do is use this idea of many minds create even better solutions and ideas when we share them. And this really ties in with everything that we've been hearing today. What I'd like to have us think about and brainstorm about in small groups is this concept of how in this age of COVID in particular, but also moving forward, engage our faith communities, our members, our congregational members within I4C, and then their members to improve the lives or the world in our community. So I guess in sort of a short phrase, it's making the spiritual practical, and kind of using the Winter Nights model as a way where they've rotated, from congregation to congregation, and then members volunteer and get involved. What we're looking for are ideas and places where we can do the same thing, where we can engage in different congregations and then have them involve their members to improve the lives of those less fortunate. And I'll give you two of my ideas, and hopefully that will spark some thoughts or ideas. One is Julius Van Hook's program. Are there ways that we can fully support him? And some, he's given us some ideas, and maybe he'll come up with other ideas. Maybe it's fundraising for iPads, if they can figure out how to get those into the juvenile hall. Maybe it's the aftercare rollout at some point, sponsoring somebody who's a young person who's leaving the facility. Those are two ideas. I don't want to kind of ramble because I think that you guys can come up with better ideas. The other is maybe it's sponsoring a food drive and, rotating it and having each congregation sponsor it, rotate, like a particular congregation will sponsor it for the first 2 weeks of July, let's say. And everyone in they maybe ask everyone in their congregation to donate one item, a can or pasta or rice or whatever, and bring it to a central location and drop it off. If you have a congregation of 100 people, that's some food. So those are two ideas that I had, and I just want to throw that out to the group to maybe brainstorm your ideas and write them out in the chat, and then we will capture that chat and go from here. But that's the general idea.
So Will's going to break us into small groups, and Will, can you manage the time of when we need to meet back? And
yeah, we'll come back at 5 to 10. We won't have a harvest except in the chat room, and in some of our breakout meetings that I've experienced on with other groups, sometimes the chats go away, but they'll all be saved, and we'll be able to harvest those and put those into some minutes with all of the best ideas put out in our email for our next conversation. We're going to break folks into groups of just 2 or 3. All of our future events are listed in the agenda that was sent out, including the links for Meaningful Mondays, Social Justice Alliance, the Mother Earth Retreat. Oh, some of those are missing in this version. So if for all of our future events are at interfaithccc.org/events, and all of the links for our future meetings are there as well, including some of the pieces. There's a free event that the Commonwealth Club is putting on soon on interfaith understanding, and our May retreat got postponed till May 31st, so there's still an opportunity to join us online for that retreat as well. So it's going to give you an option to wait, but go ahead and hit the button when it comes up and join your groups. And I've put the question, how can we help our communities collectively, in the chat room? How can our member congregations and faith traditions work together to help our community now? Is our topic.
So please ask one of the people in your small group to record in the chat some of your ideas. Your top 1 or 2 ideas. Thank you.
You've been invited. Judy, you're with me.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
I'm good, thanks.
Hopefully Emily will join us soon.
Okay.
And our question is, how can we help our community collectively, and how can our member congregations and faith traditions work together to help our community?
I think you're a genius to be able to break people into small groups.
Zoom had it all automated. All I had to do is hit 2 buttons and it worked, and everyone just went into their groups.
And did they pick them randomly?
It picked them randomly.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. So food might be the hardest thing right now, especially with as much layoffs and furloughs as we've seen. And it might be harder for congregations that rely on older members to be volunteers to keep such food pantries going. But I imagine if there were congregations that would have internal communications where people could leave donations on their in the front of their house, maybe different members of their congregations could go pick it up and take it to the food bank or the Monument Crisis Center or St. Vincent de Paul.
That's what one of the a person in Rossmore did. He was really concerned about the lack of, or the empty pantry at Monument Crisis Center, which is where they volunteer. And so he put out an appeal for people to put food on their front porch or money or whatever. And they collected a lot and took it over to Monument Crisis Center. So that works. But it's just a matter of organizing and communicating that.
Yeah, knowing who's still doing some of the food distribution. There's one in Concord at First Christian Church, and they've been trying to keep open. And I see that even one of the city councilmen in Concord, Aliato, has been organizing some of the parishes and congregations in Concord for food drop-off or food pickup, but I've not seen another city be as organized as Concord is. Have you?
So, no, I haven't. And, you know, our congregation faithfully stocks the food bank barrels, which obviously are not getting stocked. So that could be an appeal that, you know, because the barrels aren't being stocked or having donations, then we could find a different way to donate. And
well, and the biggest need for the food bank is always going to be food and money in a time like this, so that they can procure more food in bulk that they can then distribute through their points.
Right. Yeah. Well, people do give money too.
That's true.
How many congregations do we now have in
We
Interfaith
have
Council?
108 official congregations with the closures and the new members.
Well, I think it would be, you have just assigned us a small group. I think it would be really good to assign like maybe 3 congregations in a 2-week period, like what Terry said, and give them a way to do that, a format for following through with that. And you know, almost all congregations have ways to communicate electronically with people. So that's a really good idea. Are you keeping track? Is that what you're doing?
I'm typing into the chat room what you're saying.
Okay.
Yeah, the Monument Crisis Center and the Food Bank and St. Vincent de Paul are the 3 most active. And I think what's going on in Concord is an extension of St. Vincent de Paul.
Okay.
But I mentioned food security seems to be the number 1 issue.
I think so too. And I got, we got a email that everybody who wanted to be tested in Contra Costa County for the virus could be tested. I don't know whether that's true or not, but it came from, I think it came from the in Rossmore. So, but nobody in Rossmore has been affected by the virus. Nobody in Rossmore has been infected. They've been affected, but they're not infected. So it's really a safe spot. So I don't know that there's a need for testing, although there's a need for, I think Winter Nights will have a need for testing.
Oh, if you when you open again in the fall.
Yeah.
Which kind of testing?
Well, to find out if anybody has the virus.
Or has the antibodies if they've had it before?
Yes. Bill gave a scenario that I thought was pretty good. We'll see what we've got a lot of work to do to get ready for September. But Bill suggested that there be 4 tents, and every family has the biggest tent we can give them. And so we would only take 4 families, but of the 4 families, all of them would have to have cars except one, because we would only take 1 family on the van.
I saw that.
Yeah. And then somebody else suggested that we have trailers or RVs, or that we rent them and put them on various spaces for at congregations. And,
how would you do food if you were doing rental trailers?
Well, we haven't gotten that far yet. But
Gotcha.
oh no, yes, we did. Somebody suggested that the congregation would supply food, and that they would move every 2 weeks.
Oh, we would just have them in the parking lot in trailers?
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, and people could supply food and leave it at the doorstep, I guess, or something. Yeah.
Or send one member in to get it for the family?
Yeah. So that's an idea. So that's once again eliminates, it doesn't eliminate volunteers completely. It just eliminates
contact.
Yeah.
That might make the difference.
And the other thing is, you know, without, if the schools don't open, we don't have a use for the Oasis, and we have to have 24/7 a shelter in place, which is real doable as far as RVs are concerned. But we don't know how much it would cost to rent RVs, so
that's the question.
Yeah. Well, you know,
So I heard, and I mentioned this on a call yesterday, that there's 160 something, some odd people that have been quarantined in hotels by the county, and I think they have rooms of up to 420 of some number of different hotels. I think Seneca is driving food to all of them, and that's how they're doing it. But these are folks that have to be quarantined for 14 days if they've been exposed or they have a member of the family that has been tested with it. So volunteers to deliver that food was among the hardest things, and that's I think why they went with Seneca, who could produce the food and have their own people with background checks to do the deliveries within their own organization, and that they're getting reimbursed for those meals that they're producing, and it's keeping some restaurants in business. I think a restaurant in Antioch that was providing a lot of the food had already done 15,000 meals of some really outrageous number, it felt like, but it's working. But the good thing is we're not close to capacity. There's still room, and there's still the overflow rooms if necessary. But who knows what this is going to look like in the fall, right?
Well, we've got the wonderful grants that we got, which will pay for the motels, but it really does bother me that we're probably going to spend $4,000 a month for each of our people that are in motels, and that would pay for rent for an apartment. I mean, that would way overpay for rent.
Yeah, for at least 2 months, given the cost for housing around here. Yeah.
So I don't know. Anyway, that's a little bit of a problem. Do you know of any other difficulties that this has caused? Well, there's one of the things. There's a lot of fear and anxiety, and people who are having difficulty managing their financial lives and their personal lives. And so I don't know what we can do to help in mental health issues, but
we could probably put out a call for support for 211, who a lot of the people that volunteer or work at 211 in the crisis line are not only helping some of our future winter nights clients, but they're helping other people navigate what the needs are. And boy, they've done a great job at 211. Tom Tamura is on our VOAD, our disaster preparedness calls that happen each week as well, and they're staying on top of it as much as anyone, and more counties in the state are relying on their 211 for not only the crisis management but also helping with referrals for folks that need more ongoing mental health work. And NAMI Contra Costa continues to do some of their meetings with Zoom. So there's good places to refer folks, both in the 211 and in the NAMI system.
And I think that maybe I don't know how you do an appeal, but just you can just present the problem and make an appeal. But I don't know if people are.
I've collected a lot of the information during this season of COVID-19 of who needs donations and what do they need, all in one website on our website that's among the COVID-19 websites with the link that's right at the very top of it. So I update that when I see more information coming in. But it at least points out a lot of the agencies that are doing really good work and continuing to serve folks as essential services, where some of those needs for donations and volunteers are on those 2 pages, as well as there's a county system for emergency relief fund. So
I don't know what I don't know other issues right now off the top of my head. But
Are there going to be continuing issues for Winter Nights clients this summer that we're going to continue helping them with?
Well, if the shelter in place gets lifted fairly soon, Deanna, and we're concerned about the 2 that we have right now. So Deanna,
I wouldn't use names since this is being recorded.
Oh, okay. She's at the top of the list for getting housing, so I think that's okay for her. The other one is we're hoping that she can find some place to go, and it might be a different community where she has money coming in, but she can't really afford something in this area, so maybe she can go to a different community. So people are working on that. So we really only have one family, and people we have said 6 weeks. That would be up to the end of middle of June to continue to help. But our staff is working with them to get housing. So whether she does that or not, I don't know.
Gotcha.
So yes, there will be continued need for that, but that solution is not easy.
Gotcha. Do you see any other needs being able to be addressed by congregations even during this shelter-in-place order? Are you seeing younger people being volunteers with other groups?
I have not, and we don't have anybody volunteering, but I have to tell you that our staff has been incredible. They just have stepped up, and they've really been conscientious about, well, we have an abundance of wipes, and so
That's right.
That's a good thing. And then
But they've had to keep up with rules changing 2 and 3 times a week when we were starting to get different rules from the county all the time too, right?
That's true. Hey, have you been over and checked in the PLP at all?
No, I haven't.
Okay, because I think it's going fine, and people are, I haven't heard how many people, but and it changes all the time, but it's anywhere from 2 to 6 or 7. So, yeah, and they're very thankful for daytime use of restrooms. So that's a good thing. Close in 58 seconds. Okay.
We'll give folks a little time to make it back. I'm going to leave the room and head back to the main room to be there to help with the transition. Thanks, Judy.
I'm going to leave the session because I have to get over to the office and then to the bank. And I got to do it beforehand. Okay.
Thanks for all you do. Be well.
You're welcome.
Will, can you help me end the small groups and get everybody to come on back?
They have 37 seconds left. It'll happen automatically as people hit the buttons.
Okay.
Hi, Maram. Hi, Nagar. Hi, Erica.
I'm so sorry.
Hi, Terry. Hi, Sharon.
I dropped out on it. I was trying to add my messages and I hit the wrong button. So I'm so
no worries.
And I wanted to make sure that Nagar, you were talking about writing faith messages to accompany our food donations, but then I exited too soon. So was there another aspect of what you were saying that I should add to our notes? Wait,
you're muted, Maram. You're muted, Maram.
No, it's Nagar.
And Nagar.
Oh, Nagar.
I am sorry about that. For example, we can add notes from the teachings of our faith. For example, if depending on where we go and if people are open and need that encouragement. So each faith group, as we come together to make these donations, we can, for example, from the holy books or from the teaching we have, just like an idea that Julius brought. It's a nice message, and I think that could, if we join together to make these donations on the spot, then that could kind of bring interfaith spirit to it as well.
Okay, thank you.
And there was something we added that actually maybe we can help Julius with his work, like, mass incarceration. It could be Julius, it could be somebody else, and
Yeah.
maybe immigration too.
Good. I'm scanning the messages and I see lots of people with good ideas. I know our group also brought up about sharing music that I don't know if you've all thought about, but when we return to our congregations, it's going to look much different and for quite some time. We will not have choirs that we have, and we can't sing next to each other. So those are going to be changes that are going to be really different. And we have to think creatively how to approach that. And maybe the bigger churches are more able to do that technologically. And maybe we as I4C can set up a website and share those musical recordings that are made that are so wonderful right now, that are out on the internet, that are being done and blended and all this wonderful technology that many small churches cannot do and share, or if a big church has an expert in technology, maybe they are willing to help the smaller churches. So church is going to look much different going forward for a while. Anyways, okay, so we have these great ideas. We're going to summarize them. I will send that out sooner than later because we're not able to really do it on the meeting as normal. But what I wanted to do is bring the meeting to, did anybody have an ending note on this discussion?
I just want to say thank you so much, Terry, for leading this and getting us to stimulate our ideas. What came up in our little session is that there's so much that's already happening at the congregational level, and they're incredibly organized and already servicing our community. So there's a lot to latch onto. We can support this type of thing.
I'd like to add something that, one of the things that we've had issues, I feel that there are a lot of issues. People are just basically losing faith. I'm with Food for Thought, which, provides food for impoverished children during the breaks. And our organization is basically panicking because there are a lot of elder citizens and just coming together is difficult. So I think somehow we need to spread this word of faith. Everything is going to be fine. Somehow I feel like there's so much panic that somehow we have to figure out how to tell people everything's going to be fine. And group 4, Nancy had very good messages, and Randy, so I put it already on the chat. But that's something that I think as a community we can actually work on.
Positive affirmations, huh? Okay.
I'll just add that as we've started thinking along these lines, if an idea pops into your head, just, email us, send it to anyone, to me, to Carolyn, to Will.
We'll collect these ideas and try and weed out the ones that are the most doable and get a plan.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
I just can't imagine how beautiful it would be and how powerful it would be that if we all came together and were able to do something like this to show such support to all the faith communities. I think it would be powerful, very powerful.
Right.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree.
I also wanted to share a teaching. Is that okay? From a Sufi poet, Saadi, which is said as Adam's children are the limbs of one body, of one essence, since their creation. And if one limb is hurt by a calamity, the other limbs cannot remain at rest.
Beautiful.
So are helping from our heart to others, and it will bring so much joy to all of us.
Absolutely. Thank you, Nigar.
Yeah.
Can I end this meeting with, I'd like to ask Nancy Battey to unmute herself, and she's offered us a closing prayer. We're going to try this to have a different person each elected council meeting end with a closing prayer of their choice and their faith traditions. So this will vary, and Nancy brought up the idea and we welcomed it, and Nancy, you get to start.
Thank you. Oh, I'm muted by the host.
No, you're unmuted now.
Oh, I am? Oh, okay. You keep saying I'm unmuted. Oh, I see. Got it. The founder of Christian Science, Mary Baker Eddy, asked her followers to pray what she calls the daily prayer every day. And I thought that might be, it's in the church manual, and I thought maybe that would serve as a good benediction for today. It is, "Thy kingdom come. Let the reign of divine truth, life, and love be established in me, and rule out of me all sin. And may thy word enrich the affections of all mankind and govern them. Amen." And blessings to you all.
Blessings.
Thank you.
Well, thank you all. This has been actually a fascinating hour and a half. I've really enjoyed it.
Absolutely.
From starting with your music, Diane, to Robert's talk, to hearing reports, and the whole thing. It's been very encouraging.
Yes.
So thank you, thank you.
Hey, Nagar, before we hang up, can you type in that prayer, that quote from the Sufi poet into the chat room for us as well?
Yes.
Thanks so much.
I will summarize all of the comments from the chat room, and I will send that out soon, within a couple days, so that you will get to see that and not have to wait for the minutes, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Stay.
Hi, Catherine Nersati.
Hello, hello.
Stay safe, everyone.
In this meeting. I had a lot of problem with my computer. I just got in. Thank you.
Okay, well, we'll have a recording up on YouTube soon, and you'll be able to see the rest of it there.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Sure thing. Yeah, just look up Interfaith Council of Contra Costa County in about an hour, and it should be up by then on YouTube.
Thank you.
Be well, everyone.
Thank you very much, Bill.
Thank you.
Bye.
Goodbye.
Take care.